So I recently watched the Darth Maul show and I went in completely blind without watching any of the trailers or any YouTube videos predicting what's going to happen. And here are some things that I noticed. So immediately when the show starts, you hear this boom. It's like the Bram from Inception. And that's how you know it's going to be a really, really dark show. Like it feels kind of like a painting and not like a video game like the old Clone Wars shows. It's pretty cool. Now in the first scene, you basically have some Mandalorians that are robbing a bank, stealing physical credits from the bank, which I found really interesting. Because even though Star Wars is supposed to be really futuristic, they still have cash. Meanwhile, in the real world, they're trying to get rid of cash and they're trying to tokenize currency for the blockchain, for surveillance, so they know where every single dollar is going. And I mean, it's probably because George Lucas couldn't have predicted that when he came up with it. And then we kind of got stuck with the physical credit system. So moving on. And then you have this little spy droid that's on the side of the Mandalorians. And he kind of reminds me of that little mischievous bot from Transformers who's just really angry all the time. This guy. But he's also like Cad Bane's sidekick, but much more evil. Cad Bane's sidekick, I don't remember his name, Zemo or something. He was kind of a fool. And then, oh my God, Maul's ship. You can tell it's Maul's ship because it looks kind of like a Sith infiltrator. It looks really dark and evil and... oh, so badass. I always wanted that Lego set as a kid, but I never got it. But I digress. And so by this time, the police have come to try to stop the heist. So what do? They stand in front of the ship with their back to the ship, which is not good. And the Mandalorian lady sarcastically is like, I guess you win. And the police guy's like, that's weird. That was too easy. And then it starts. You hear it. The footsteps. The playing of the Phantom Menace. And in that moment, you know in your soul that Maul is just gonna tear it up and destroy everything. Absolute cinema. So they start blasting him. Because what else are they gonna do? And he's all like... with the crazy lightsaber spins, far more intense than the ones Obi-Wan and Anakin did on Mustafar. This is just such a badass scene. And then Maul just jumps towards the last guy and slices him. And then we get the title scene. Now that's some action. Then it dies down a little and gets a little boring because you meet two characters that I personally know nothing about at the time of watching. Okay, I watched episode 2. I know they're Jedi now. But at the time, I was like, maybe they're Jedi. Maybe they're just homeless people. But anyways, there's this older lizard guy with a pipe for a cane and this younger pink Twi'lek woman who I would think would probably be older than Ahsoka. I don't know. Anyways, right now there's nothing to tell you explicitly that they're Jedi, but you can use context clues, okay? It's a Star Wars show. Anyways, pink Twi'lek girl, she realizes Master's hungry. So she's like, Master, let me steal some food for you, okay? They're not gonna notice, they're not gonna miss it, but you are hungry. And Master didn't like that, and he's like, no, we don't steal. We don't do that. And then he says something so stupid. Well, it's not stupid. It's naive. We can always rely on the kindness of strangers. And I'm like, my God, you poor naive old man. And this is what made me think maybe he's not a Jedi. Maybe he's just a foolish old man. But what happens next is really ironic because after he says he can count on the kindness of strangers, he walks up to a stranger and asks for some kindness and immediately gets rejected.
A pardon? Would you be so kind?
Echuta. Sir, can I have some more? Echuta. And it's like, damn, I feel bad for the guy. But his Twi'lek apprentice, she didn't like this. So she goes against her master's wishes, steals the melons, and then walks away. But unfortunately, she bumps into someone, drops the melons. The store owner sees her and he's like, hey, thief, thief. And conveniently, there just happens to be a RoboCop droid over there. And even though the old guy's like, we apologize, we didn't want to cause any trouble, the droid's like, stealing is a crime, you're under arrest. And this whole thing just makes me think, my God, this has got to be some sort of propaganda to keep people in line. Because the robot says, comply, you must comply, do not resist. And the old guy tells his apprentice, you know what? We can't risk the attention. You made your bed, now you gotta sleep. I mean, he didn't say it that mean, but he's like, you know, they'll be reasonable, just go in, comply, and they'll release you. It's gonna be fine. Just more naive stuff from an idealistic Jedi. Like seriously, in the back of my head, I'm like, how is this not police state propaganda? It really seems like it. It really does. So then RoboCop takes her away, and you can see that Master Dinosaur Man, he's kind of depressed. He's like, you know, my apprentice is exhibiting traits of the dark side. That's not good. It's not good at all. Foreshadowing. Now, the next scene we come to follows Captain Lawson, who's one of the main protagonists of this show. He's come to the scene of the heist crime that we saw to investigate. Now, who does this guy remind you of? Because he reminds me of the bad guy from Up. He also reminds me of Walt Disney. And I mean, if the mustache fits, right? Not all people with the same mustachio look the same. But also, they kind of do. So the people investigating the crime scene, they're confused because they're like, who is dumb enough to rob a mob bank? Mob bank being mafia bank, mob lords, crime lords. Who is dumb enough to steal from them? Darth Maul, that's who. And he's not dumb, he's just not scared. He gives no fucks. And this droid who's at the scene, he uses his feeble, lower level thinking and he's like, oh, it must be the rival crime lord, Looty Vario. But Walt Disney, Captain Lawson, he's like, nah, I know better. It's not Vario, you stupid droid. That wouldn't make any sense because that would just cause a gang war and they don't want a gang war. And also, he didn't even steal all the credits. And also, why did he take the bank droid? So clearly Lawson's onto something. He's like, this isn't just gang on gang violence. There's something more to this story. Now in the next scene, we actually meet Deemis. The guy whose bank was robbed. And this guy is such a mob boss stereotype, okay? He says,
they robbed me, shoot up my guards, and take my bank droid! Who's got answers?
They robbed me and shoot my god and take my bank droid. It really feels like some version of, look how they massacred my boy, but with a lot more buffoonery and emotional instability. Like he's even threatening to beat his own henchman with a bottle. I mean, it's not his fault, but he might deserve it because that henchman comes to the same stupid conclusion that the robot at the crime scene came up with, saying that it was probably Vario that robbed the bank. So in response to this, Deemis is like, set up a meet on neutral ground so I can ask this mofo face to face if he robbed me. And then from the distance, you see that annoying spy bot. And he's like, Deemis is so mad. Which is kind of funny because he's not just a spy. Okay, he's a nuisance. And then he says an even funnier tagline. Like, I don't know why they did this. I'm so glad they did. But he's like, Bushkido! Bukishi! But what does that even mean? It's funny, okay? I enjoyed it. And then the next scene is just in Maul's lair, and we see like a goth Dami Mommy version of Sabine Wren. And she delivers some bad news to Maul that the gangs are not acting like children. They're actually holding up their truce, which is really disappointing because Maul just wanted an easy gang war where they'd all just kill each other. So Maul's like, not under my watch. I'm gonna meddle in this shit and make sure they all go after each other. And then there's some boring exposition talk where Dami Mommy's asking Maul, why are we going after these low-level criminals? And so Maul explains. And he does it with his voice, where he seems annoyed and he also seems pissed at the same time. But that's just his voice. And it's just, honestly, Maul is one of the most menacing characters in the whole animated Star Wars universe. The voice actor does an amazing job. Anyway, Maul lists out all the people he has a gripe with that he needs to get vengeance on, like the Pikes and everybody else. Such a Sith thing to do. Holding grudges and never letting them go until they are destroyed. Now the next scene opens up with a close-up of old Dino Man's beard stubble, which is kind of unsettling because, lizards, they're not really supposed to have hair on their face, but whatever. But anyways, he's camped outside the police station where his apprentice has been taken for processing after her arrest. And when she's in the station, she's asked for her ID, but she's like, lol, no. But the droid's not having that, and he's like, you must comply. Comply, goddammit. Which brings up another way I think that the Star Wars universe is kind of weird, because in the real world, they would probably just facial scan you and use their new AI systems to identify who you are. But in the Star Wars universe, which is supposed to be more advanced, they're asking for ID. But once again, George Lucas didn't plan for this in the 70s, so we're stuck with it. But anyway, Captain Lawson tries to throw the girl a softball because, as you can see on his desk, he has a son. So that makes him a big softie, because he's probably like, oh, this girl, probably the same age as my son. She shouldn't have to be in here. I could be making this up. Anyway, it's not important. Unfortunately, she just won't comply.
She will not comply.
But then some other droid is like, yo, Lawson, check this out. We got something on the heist. So Lawson's like, screw you. To jail with you. If you won't comply, go to jail.
Right to jail, right away.
And this is when I noticed that there are a lot of droids in the police station. It's like one human captain managing a bunch of RoboCops. Kind of like what big tech thinks our futures are going to be, where you just have one person with a job managing a bunch of agents, and then all the humans who used to work those jobs are just living for scraps, you know? What a terrible future we're in for. Anyway, what RoboCop found was footage of Maul at the heist, just massacring people and slaughtering them. And when Lawson sees it, he's like, wow, a laser sword. I haven't seen that since the Clone Wars. Which is like, what do you mean a laser sword? The Clone Wars was probably barely even 5 years ago, okay? You probably also know it's called a lightsaber too. But yeah, at this point, they do decide to run facial recognition on Maul, because apparently they have that. And apparently they have more respect than the US government because they won't run the facial recognition unless you're a criminal. Anyway, the scan comes back and it's like, this guy is bad news. It's classified by the Empire. And you're supposed to report any sightings of this guy to the Empire. So obviously the clanker RoboCop is like, we should tell the Empire. And Lawson's like, nah. We're not telling the Empire. We don't want them involved. Because I mean, if they call the Empire gets involved. And it's just worse for everybody. So he wants to keep this under wraps, but also possible plot hole here. If I designed some facial recognition software and I worked for a government, I would make it so that every single piece of footage that went through my software would automatically send me a flag if there's a flag. It wouldn't be up to the person watching the video to be like, oh, it says to turn this person in. I guess I should do that. No, that's just terrible software design. So it doesn't make sense to me, but it's a way to further the plot and the story, so we're gonna let it slide. And now in the next scene, we have the Mafia boss meetup. And this is where you realize that the other Mafia boss, Vario, he's just as much of a clown as Deemis. I mean, he's probably less of a clown, but like you can tell from his voice, he's got that goofy, I'm walking here, New York mafioso comic relief accent. So they purposely gave him a voice of a guy that you shouldn't take seriously. And that makes me wonder, how the heck did these people even become Mafia bosses in the first place? Like how? Like these people are not threatening. They don't look like hardened criminals. It kind of takes me out of the immersion if you make the Mafia bosses total clowns. I'm used to stuff from like the Dark Knight where the Joker comes in and stabs people with a pencil and then they all start fighting. But no, I guess mob bosses in Star Wars are not real threats. they're just goofy people. Anyway, back to Vario. Vario is wearing this big robotic Master Chief looking armor, but it's crappier than Halo armor, okay? And also, I had to look this up. Vario is voiced by the same guy that voices Russ Hanneman from Silicon Valley, who's a big tool bag. So I guess there's a connection there. Just something to think about. But yeah, Vario clearly can't read the room because he's all cheery while Deemis is clearly pissed. He's not happy. He's not having a good time. So they start talking and you realize that this Vario guy might actually know some stuff because when Deemis asks who would have attacked him, Vario's like, oh, you know who. And he implies that it's Maul, which is correct. And Deemis is like, well, why would he do that? And Vario's like, because you betrayed him, bro. You betrayed him. Anyway, Deemis is like, no, it can't be him. And he continues with his emotional immaturity. And he's like saying stuff like, Vario, you did this to me to make me look weak, to take over my territory. Reminds me of someone we all have to unfortunately deal with now. Who lives in the White House and has dementia. God. And then out of nowhere, this freaking droid brings the severed head of Deemis's stolen bank droid. You know, the one that Maul stole to frame Vario. And Deemis just freaks out and goes apeshit. And he's like, this is proof. You did it. Pew, 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 pew. And negotiations break down. Kind of like what's happening in the Middle East right now. And then off in the distance, you have this little spy bot again. And he's going, yes, yes, yes. He's so happy to be causing this chaos. Then the next scene, you have a CoffeeZilla type moment, okay? CoffeeZilla, one of my favorite creators. But basically, you have RoboCop bringing Lawson a coffee. And then Lawson asks RoboCop, how's the coffee? And the robot's like, you know, I can't really drink this. I kind of just do this so that you feel like you have a friend, which is kind of the relationship between CoffeeZilla and his robot in his investigative series. But yeah, then all of a sudden the moment is ruined because someone comes in and notifies them that shit is going down at the port. You know, the place where the mafia bosses were meeting up? Shit is going down. So we go back to the port and it turns out that Vario has outsmarted Deemis by getting out of his suit and using the suit as bait. He tricked Deemis and surprised him to then shoot him in the front, not in the back. Okay, cowards shoot in the back. And now Deemis is dead. But now Maul's like, it's your turn, Vario. Deemis is dead, but you gotta die too, because you betrayed me. And then there's this whole chase scene, which honestly wasn't too interesting to me, so I'm not really gonna cover it. But at the end, Lawson and the other police come and they save Vario. But not before Vario actually identifies the people who are trying to kill him.
Wait, I know you.
Yes, buddy. Maul is trying to kill you. You were right! Good job. But anyways, Vario was saved by the cops, only to be sent straight to jail.
I to jail.
Well, not exactly. He was questioned first. But when Maul found out that he was saved, he was like, this bitch won't escape me. We're breaking into prison, and I'm breaking his legs. But Sabine got Dami Mommy. She's like, but sir, that's too risky. And Maul's like, I don't give a shit. I'm getting my revenge. Okay? I don't care. He's going down. And then there's this really cute but kind of weird scene where Maul is petting the spy droid like a cat. It's kind of funny, but also, like, you would never expect Maul to have like a soft side where he'd like pet his companion, but... And then in the next scene, Lawson is questioning Vario. He's like, Deemis is dead. You must have killed him. I could put you away for a long time for that. And Vario's like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And Lawson's like, who did it then? Who did it? And Vario's like,
Ever heard of the Shadow Collective?
so you ever heard of a Shadow Collective? Which was the name of Maul's old crime syndicate. So after that, they take Vario to his jail cell, and we see that the pink Twi'lek Jedi is housed right next to his cell, in an adjacent cell, which is probably important and is probably foreshadowing something. But yeah, another funny thing, Vario complains about the size of his cell being too small, and he gets burned, roasted by RoboCop droid. The droid's like, it's quite adequate for your needs.
It is quite adequate for your needs.
Straight up calling him a pipsqueak. And then he got some more cute, wholesome CoffeeZilla robot type interactions between Lawson and his RoboCop buddy. Cut to the old Jedi dinosaur waiting in the rain outside the police station. And I don't know what he's waiting for. I mean, it probably has something to do with patience. But then you see Maul and the boys getting ready to break into the prison, fuck some shit up. And at first they try to do it really stealthily, you know, to avoid getting attention, right? Because the Sith don't want attention, the Jedi don't want attention. I mean, Maul isn't a Sith, but he's enemy number one to the Empire, so he doesn't want any attention on it. The creepy droid is doing some stealthy hacking. Nothing to see. And he gets some quiet takedowns. But as usual, when the guards fail to report in, Lawson's like, yo, something's up, something's sketch. We gotta go check out the cells. We gotta protect the tiny man. So some of the droids go up to the detention cell and they get mowed down by a Gatling gun. Oh my God, it was kind of pathetic. And then Two Boots, who is Lawson's RoboCop companion, now he has a name, they get split up in the hallway because the door comes down, and then Two Boots has to hack the door to try to open it. But you got the freaking spy bot on their side doing some Jurassic Park hacking nonsense, being like, you can't open the door. But yeah, eventually Two Boots defeats Spybot in its hacker war, and he gets reunited with Lawson to only immediately split up from him right after they were reunited. So Two Boots retreats to get back up, and Lawson goes straight into the action, where he finds himself face to face with Maul, the menacing guy that he saw in the hologram. I mean, we all know who Maul is, but it's a surprise to him. And he's like, oh shit. So he starts blasting at Maul, and obviously that doesn't really do anything to Maul. He just deflects everything, force blasts him, and knocks him out, and just leaves him on the floor. Doesn't kill him, just leaves him on the floor to come in the future and meddle with his plans, which is a kind of dumb move by Maul, because, you know, life would be easier if the guy who's chasing you, that you know is chasing you, isn't alive to chase you anymore. But I guess it's an ego thing. It's him wanting to play with his prey. And, you know, we also need reasons for the plot and the story to go on, okay? It's good storytelling, as long as you don't think too much about it like I do. But anyways, Maul continues through the hallways, slicing his way through, and Vario is, he's shitting his pants. He's scared. He's like, Maul is gonna come for me, and I have no more time, because he knows what happens. But surprisingly, Maul doesn't just kill him immediately. Instead, he does something much worse. He toys with him. He puts the lightsaber in the wall and slowly inches it towards Vario's head. Dude, that's traumatic. That's torture. That's scary. And Vario's just bargaining. He's like, I can give you money. I can give you whatever you want. I can give you my balls, please. Don't kill me. And Maul's like, I can just take that from you. Maul always just has such great I'm smarter than you one-liner. He's a total badass. But then Vario actually says something that interests Maul. He's like, I can help you get to Krim, which I assume is someone else that has wronged Maul. So Maul's like, I guess I will spare you for now. And so on the way out, when they're taking Vario out of his cell, but that's when he sees her, a Force-sensitive Twi'lek that he can make his apprentice. And she knows who he is because she says Maul. So not much of a cliffhanger. I enjoyed episode 1. It had a lot of funny bits, I always find a way to enjoy what I'm watching. Bushkido! But let me know if you actually want episode 2, because this was a lot of work. And yeah, reminder, this is not a Star Wars channel. This is a commentary channel, so go watch some commentary if you're new. And if you like that, then follow me. But yeah, never share your password. God, it's been a long time since I said that one.